Hi everybody, and welcome to the Atheist Experience. This show is brought to you by the Atheist Community of Austin. I'm Jeff Dee, sitting in for our regular host Ashley Perrion, and today's guest co-host is Keryn Glasser. Hi Keryn.
Good to be on the show today. Looking forward to it.
I think it's going to be fun.
Yay.
We're live July 1, 2004. For those of you that don't know, the Atheist Community of Austin is a nonprofit educational organization that promotes positive atheism and the separation of church and state. That's what we do.
Yes.
We have weekly meetings, Sunday mornings at Crescent City Beignets, that's 1211 West 6th Street, at 11 a.m., except for the third Sunday of each month when we have our lecture series at 12:30 at the Austin History Center at 9th and Guadalupe. Our next lecture will be on the 18th. The speaker is ACLU attorney Jay Jacobson, presenting a quick and dirty guide to the history of the establishment of religion clause in the First Amendment from colonial times to the present. Yeah. For more information, you can call our voicemail line. We still have that?
I have no idea.
I assume we do. If you don't get an answer, it's gone. These are my, I used to host this show a long time ago, and when they asked me to come in and sit in for Ashley, I just printed out my notes. These are like 3 years old. All the rest of the stuff is accurate, though. This is the only thing I'm not certain about.
This was in response to what?
371-2911. That would be a voicemail number, which I believe we still have. Or visit our website at www.atheist-community.org, just like it's on the screen there. Okay. Ooh, and I have an announcement. This is from the Texas Freedom Network. They want everybody to know that on Wednesday, July 14, there will be this year's first public hearing on health textbooks held by the Texas State Board of Education. The stakes in this hearing, in the one that's scheduled for September 8, and in the final vote by the SBOE scheduled for November 9th, just 3 days after the U.S. presidential election, are seen by many as a struggle between science and ideology, in this case between medically accurate information that can help ensure the health of U.S. youth and evasions that quietly defer to the puritanical fantasies of the religious right. Because Texas is such a large textbook market, the decisions made by the Texas State Board of Education affect textbooks distributed to schools nationwide. In an attempt to cater to the Bible Belt, some publishers are willing to hedge on, if not disregard, empirically proven findings. The state's own health education standards require that information on contraceptives and their degree of effectiveness receive both attention and careful analysis in textbooks. Unfortunately, some publishers are shirking that responsibility. Typically, members of the Board of Education expect those testifying to have read and to be able to refer to specific textbooks in question. If one plans to testify, you can check out the textbooks by visiting the Regional Education Service Center. The ESC here in Austin is located at 5701 Springdale Road. The phone number is 512-919-5313. The public is also free to address issues, though not specific texts, though that approach may have less of an effect on the board. Each person testifying will need to bring 25 copies of his or her testimony to give to the Board of Education staff. Again, the first hearing is on the 14th. The deadline for registering to testify at that hearing is already gone. But if you want to testify on September 8, the deadline is September 3. Also, individual members of the board can be reached by telephone at 512-463-9007. This information is probably, well, it's available on our website. If you go to atheist-community.org and follow the news link, this information is all there if you didn't catch important details. So there's that. Okay. Shall we do some news?
Sure we shall.
What's happening?
Well, there's a lot going on in the world today with an election coming up. I'm really excited about this. My title for the show today is This is What Happens When We Mix Religion and Politics. I have an article here. This is my first article I'm going to start with, and I'm going to go into depth on this one because I've got a lot of other stuff. I'll just read headlines. But Kerry has been cited in a Catholic heresy case.
This is John Kerry?
John Kerry. Presidential candidate John Kerry has been cited in a Catholic heresy case. A Catholic lawyer has filed a heresy charges against Senator John Kerry for receiving Holy Communion as a pro-choice Catholic. The lawyer who's filing the case,
But a lawyer is charging him with heresy? Is that what you just said?
That's what it looks like in the article.
Okay.
Accusing Democratic presidential
I'm
candidate
immediately
of bringing
puzzled.
most serious scandal to the American public by receiving Holy Communion as a pro-choice candidate.
No, it's not. I don't care. I'll bet a lot of non-Catholics don't care.
And, you know, a certain amount of Catholics that are pro-choice, if there is such a thing, which
Sure.
apparently there is. Because
Well, yeah. Kerry would be one. That's why this guy's after him.
heresy is a public ecclesiastical crime, says...
Oh, an ecclesiastical crime. So he's taking him to church court. Is he a church lawyer?
I don't know. I think I didn't read this article enough ahead of time.
Okay.
You read it. No, just
No,
kidding.
no. I have a copy.
You have
I can
a copy.
follow along.
Good. The complaint, by the way, is posted at www.defied.com.
D-E-F-I-D-E?
That's right. It affects entire communities. It is one of the greatest sins you can commit.
Heresy.
Heresy. Okay, I was going to say, would that be taking communion or being pro-choice? But I guess heresy is one of the greatest sins that you can commit.
This guy's saying the heresy was taking communion while he disagreed. Well, while he was not bending over and just doing what the church said
I guess
in office.
So.
Right?
Now, yeah. Now, see, my question was when I started to read this article, does that mean that because they want to excommunicate him from the church, that implies that he shouldn't be able to run for president anymore? Or, I mean, what are they trying to get out of this? And he says that his goal is his repentance, not his excommunication. They don't want to kick him out of the church for heresy, even though it is one of the highest ecclesiastical crimes, one of the greatest sins you can commit. They don't want to kick him out of the Catholic Church.
They're afraid he might win.
Repent.
They're afraid he might win, and then they just want him to change his tune.
I guess so, but
when
he
gets in, be anti-choice.
And this is going off on a little tangent, but I've heard that it is very difficult, nigh impossible, to get excommunicated from the Catholic Church.
I bet I could do it.
Because, I have talked to atheists who were baptized as Catholics when they were babies, who wrote letters into the Catholic Church saying, I denounce God. I am an atheist. I do not believe in the Catholic Church. I do not want to be on your list anymore. Yeah. And they were like, oh, too bad. Because they want to keep their numbers up.
You know, I've actually heard that about Protestant churches as well, that a lot of Protestant churches, they inflate their apparent membership figures by simply not removing people from their roles who are not coming anymore. You know, they don't even know why these people aren't coming anymore. They just don't take them off.
It used to be a very serious thing. If you even questioned the existence of God, we're out of there.
You could be burned at the stake and stuff. That was pretty serious.
Well,
that's what they used to do about heresy.
That now, but now you can't get out of the Catholic Church if you try. So they are suing him. I guess not suing, but they're filing heresy charges against him because he committed heresy, which is one of the highest crimes. If I'm not being too redundant, but they don't. They just want him to repent publicly. I don't know. What do you think that would do to his campaign if he publicly repented for committing heresy?
I have no idea, but I will say this. I'll say this is exactly what you get for being a member of one of these organizations. That's what you get, right?
That's not where I was going with that.
At some point, John Kerry signed up to be a Catholic, right? And now this whole organization feels it's got the right to denounce him if he ever says anything that they don't officially agree with.
That's not necessarily
that's what he gets.
True. Where did you come from?
What do you mean?
What were you before you were an atheist?
My parents were Methodist. I guess I was baptized there.
So did you sign up to be a Methodist?
No, but I signed out of being that. Right? If the Methodist Church came along now and said, "Yes, we denounce Jeff Dee for not believing in God," it's like, fine. It's like I'm not. you got no authority over me. I'm not trying to be in your club.
You know,
John Kerry's still trying to be in their club.
I don't know that.
I think you should walk.
I think that
that's what I'd do.
I
I'd
think
walk.
that one of the few things that I respect about John Kerry is that he keeps his religion very private. He keeps it out of his politics, as far as I've seen.
Yeah, not private enough, because check what the Catholic Church is trying to do to him because of the
But that's
because
not him,
of what
that's
he's
the Catholic
doing.
Church. They've got him on his list. They want to create a scandal.
But if he wants his religion private, he doesn't have to even tell the Catholic Church about it. He can say, "Fine, I'm out of here. I'll believe whatever I want to believe religiously. You people get off my back."
But my guess is they like George Bush because George Bush is a freak. Yes, I did say that on live television. And they want to create scandal so that people will have any reason whatsoever that they can grab onto with their claws not to vote for Kerry. So they're hoping that he will publicly not, give into this. He'll be the bigger man and say whatever, To
be fair to the Catholic Church, it's not the church that's bringing this charge against him. I mean, there have been bishops that have said a couple of pretty crazy things about John Kerry and his pro-choice stance. But this is a individual Catholic who's a lawyer taking him to church court, right? Mm-hmm. That's what this is. It's and
and I guess it hasn't been brought. It hasn't been accepted as a case yet. Somebody's bringing it to the Archdiocese of Boston, which is where Kerry's from, I guess.
Yeah.
And says that they have the right to reject the case. But if they reject it, he can appeal it to the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. Now,
I agree with you. Your implication is this is something somebody's doing intentionally to hurt Kerry politically. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably true. I'm just saying, maybe if you're a political candidate, you shouldn't be tied to one of these big organizations that can be used to hurt you politically.
Well, and I'm wondering
maybe you just don't want to do that.
I'm wondering if he doesn't come out and publicly repent for having committed heresy. Then it says my goal is not his repentance, not his excommunication. So if he doesn't repent, are they going to excommunicate him? In which case, are we going to have a non-religiously affiliated president elected?
Yeah. Well, of course, that would depend on how badly it hurt him in the election. Yeah, a lot of people take this kind of stuff seriously, and I don't take it that seriously, but I think if you sign up to be a member of a big organization that supposedly is in charge of telling you what's right and wrong, then if you disagree with it and they complain, it's your own darn fault, in my opinion.
He says, by the way, the lawyer, I'm Mr. Balistrary or something like that. So that's why I've just been saying the lawyer. Is quoted in this article saying, this is life-threatening heresy.
He's talking about fetuses, I believe.
I guess so. He's inviting all baptized Catholics who feel injured personally by Kerry to join the suit.
This whole thing is so ridiculous. Look, it is not objectively obvious what point in the development of a human embryo is the appropriate point to say, okay, now it's a person. That it's not obvious. It's this long, slow, incremental process, and there is no absolutely objectively obvious way of deciding what point during that process is the beginning of a human life. There's no way. So here we have a big organization that has decided for itself it's this point back here, right? Really, really early. But for every other American who's not a Catholic, they got all kinds of other standards by which to judge that. So what's a government to do, right? Does the government just bend over and say, because the Catholics say it's this early, that's when human life begins? There's a lot of people in this country that disagree, and this is why we have, voting and elections and a process by which we determine what the laws are going to be. All Kerry has said is, look, that process is going to determine what is the point at which we could consider it a crime to kill a human life, right?
You know who they should ask? That's it. And I'm poking fun at myself here. They should ask the vegetarian networks.
Why?
Because they have a lot of opinions about what is a life that's unethical to kill. Yeast, honey, yeast, bees.
What about them?
They're
not human lives.
Right, yeah, true. And I guess the Catholic Church doesn't care about that, but I bet they have.
But that's a good
opinions.
point. There is a completely different group with a totally different take on it, and their own reasons for having that take. They're citizens too. They have a right to be involved in the process, and for any of those organizations to say, you know, you're going to have to simply, you know, represent us, is ridiculous. You know, Kerry is not just asking to run for president for Catholics. He's asking to run for president for all the Democrats, you know, and
not just for all the Democrats, for all the people of the entire United States.
But he's going there as a representative of all the Democrats, not just of all the Catholics. So for the Catholic Church to say, you got to take our view and throw out the views of all the people that are not Catholics that we can't excommunicate, yeah, that's just horrible. But on the other hand, I got to admit, you know, if he wants to be in that organization, then he gets what he gets.
I think it'd be interesting to see what comes of this.
I think
More
so.
on that later. This is just one example, in my opinion, of what happens when we mix religion and politics. I mean, the world is going to come unglued because you know, we can't elect Kerry because the Catholic Church wants to excommunicate him, and we can't elect Bush because, you know, the Southern Baptists and every other religious party that's not completely fanatic or doesn't completely agree with him wants to, you know, kick him out, and, you know. And we're stifling health and birth control and research and science and all that stuff because the Christians don't, you know, think it's moral and ethical, and you're stifling the entire progress of the universe by mixing religion and politics.
Yeah.
I mean, this is such a delicate group of rules to base the way you progress and the way you treat other human beings and the way you learn about the universe and the way you live your life, and I don't know.
We've gotten along so long in this country with people simply having their own views for whatever reason. Okay, maybe it's because of a religion, right? Maybe it's because they've actually personally thought about stuff and reached their own conclusions. Maybe it's because of some other group that they're part of that gives them a certain angle on these issues. We've gotten along for a long time with people just voting the way they think is correct and dealing with the consequences. It's worked great for 200 years. Now, all of a sudden, what we've got is all these pressure groups trying to actually manipulate the political process, to actually could have more control than simply their influence with the voters that are in their camp. I think it's horrible.
Now, am I wrong in thinking, and this is just something that's popping in my head right now, but that this whole wave of religious fanaticism is something relatively new? I mean, not new in terms of the history of the world, but I mean in terms of, you know, the 21st century compared to the 20th century, and I mean, and do you think that it seems to me like we have an extreme religious fanatic in government, and he's using that to create his policies, and he's using it in the way that he's announcing that they're going to move the ban of gay marriage to the front burner in their campaign trail. This is going to be one of their major priorities that they're going to be promoting in their campaign trail. That you know, it's big. It's you know, on par with the war in Iraq, that gay people should not be legally allowed under the Constitution to get married. I mean, is this something new that started in 2000?
Well, no, it's been growing since Reagan.
Because I'm wondering if things like, you know, the technological revolution and the just everything, all the progress we made in the 20th century, from 1900 to 2000, we made leaps and bounds in science and technology, in education, in what we know about the universe, in how we can manipulate, you know, the world. I'm wondering if somehow there was like a gap in.
Well, I mean, this kind of stuff happens, you know, periodically in history. I mean, even during the 20th century, if you go back to like the 1920s when we had the Scopes monkey trial, right? That was another big uproar of religious views attempting to dictate how the country had to be run. And that just happens periodically. I think this is just another one of those. The dangerous thing is that every once in a while, not in our history so far in the U.S., but every once in a while, you actually get open warfare as a result of religions trying to exert their authority. I don't think we're near that yet, but when I hear stuff like the Bush administration has already appointed somebody to be in charge of handling the postponement of elections.
Oh.
Heard about this?
Yeah, well, I haven't, but I saw it coming.
When we have an administration that is clearly, if not really religiously motivated, then focused on doing what religious people want so that they get that segment of the vote. When I hear about that government getting ready to postpone our elections, it starts to worry me. So let's do some more actual details. Because the religious conflicts come back periodically and they happen over and over again. This is why Europe is so non-religious. Europe has had a much longer history than us. They've been through more of these things in their history, and they know what the stakes are. I just stumbled upon a very interesting film called The Last Valley. This is a film based on a novel by James Clavell, starring Omar Sharif and Michael Caine. And it's set in the 100 Years' War, and it's a brutal expose of the horrors of religiously motivated war. And the two main characters are atheists, unrepentant till the end, which I thought was pretty cool. But speaking of Europe...
Michael Caine, huh? I like him.
Yeah. Yeah, you should see that film. Speaking of Europe, there's something going on in Europe that's been building for a while that troubles me greatly, in spite of the fact that mostly I don't worry about Europe because, at least religion-wise, they seem to know what they're doing. There's this whole headscarf ban, or veil ban thing going on. You heard about this?
Yes. But refresh me.
Well, recently, the European Court ruled that banning Muslim headscarves in state schools in France does not violate the freedom of religion and is a valid way to counter Islamic fundamentalism. Okay, this is the European High Court of Human Rights said. And since then, French officials have warned Muslim activists against testing the state's patience after a second large Muslim group urged schoolgirls to defy a ban on headscarves when schools reopen in September. The headscarves, which will be banned from state schools after the summer break, surged back into the news when the large Union of Union of French Islamic Organizations pledged last week to give legal aid to any girl who is expelled for wearing one. A meeting of about 100 imams, or Muslim prayer leaders, in the region around Lyon joined the campaign on Sunday. The resurgent headscarf dispute has publicly split leaders of France's 5 million-strong Muslim minority and worried authorities who fear dramatic protests this autumn against the ban voted in March after heated debates. Moderate Muslims opposed to the UOIF strategy last week urged schoolgirls to avoid any action that would stigmatize French Muslims. Okay, I got a problem with this. I don't think even in a secular state you want to be banning religious expression like that. Even in public schools in a secular state. I just think that's a mistake. We don't do it here, and I think we're right not to. So I don't know. Maybe, it's cool of Europe to understand the dangers of religion, but I think they've maybe forgotten how religious violence starts. It starts by annoying them.
You know, and they're saying that the goal of atheists is to get rid of religion altogether.
They?
You know,
the fundamentalists here?
Yep. Yeah. People who start these wars.
Yeah.
But that's not my goal. I mean, I think when I talk about separation of church and state, I'm not saying that we should make religion illegal.
Right, absolutely not.
I think that's bad and wrong. I think that is including religion and in church and state. I think that when you make laws against religion, it's just as much incorporating church and state as when you force your religion on other people through your laws.
I agree. I'm being reminded by the control room that that the ban in France is on all religious paraphernalia, though I don't know the exact details, but it's my understanding that a little cross is okay, but a big cross isn't okay. Man, should they not be opening up that can of worms. Is there going to be like a number of, I guess it wouldn't be inches, it would be centimeters in Europe. Is there a specific size of cross that you can have? A specific width? You know? I mean, that just seems nuts. Yeah. It doesn't help if it targets all religious expression. It's still a suppression of free speech. I can't agree that they're doing the right thing. You've got more on religious political shenanigans here in the U.S.?
Well, I saw an article that looked really interesting about how something about Southern Baptists not liking the Bush campaign tactics, but I couldn't pull up that article, so I didn't go anywhere with that. I think you mentioned that you knew something about it.
Some Southern Baptist organization has expressed dismay over the Bush administration's attempt to involve churches more directly in political campaigns. That's all it is. Well, it's true, but it's nice to see them recognizing it.
It's good.
You know, with all of the faith-based hysteria that we have in this country lately, I was starting to think that maybe religious organizations were no longer aware of how stuff like that would undermine their own goals. But it's good to see that they are aware of that.
Somebody posed the question to me recently, do I really believe that Bush has a religious agenda, or do I think that he's using religion to promote his own agenda? And I couldn't answer that question. It was a really fine line.
I'm not sure. I don't care, really.
Because
really don't care.
I suppose if you look at the religious things that he's trying to promote, not all of them fall under the Episcopalian Church, you know, or they're a little bit too extreme for, you know, even the religious people he claims to be representing. So it's a really fine line. I couldn't answer that question.
Yeah. We have some calls. Do you want to take some calls?
Sure. Let's go to callers.
You know, I probably should have had somebody instruct me in the use of this phone thing, which is different from the one they had back when I was on the show. What do you do? Is that the top button or the
top button?
So we're gonna go to line one. Bobby.
Hi.
Hi, Bobby.
Hi. How are y'all today?
Good. Thanks for calling. What's up?
First, before I get to my question, I don't know if you heard this or not. Last week, I was reading CNN.com, and there was a story about Bush trying to get church directories.
So that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, so he could add those people to his mailing list.
Right.
And it's such a horrible thing that the Southern Baptist Convention has an ethics administrator, and that person said that it was, let me try to remember the word right now.
Unethical?
Horrible. He thought it was horrible. I mean, this is somebody from the Southern Baptist Convention. I mean, it shocked me that he was speaking out against President Bush doing this.
Yeah, surprising, huh? Because
it was surprising.
We get the impression all the time that those folks are just in his back pocket. It's nice to see them thinking for themselves.
Yeah, for once. Okay, my question is: earlier you had mentioned, Jeff, you had mentioned that President Bush has appointed someone to delay the elections.
I've unfortunately got this secondhand, so take what I say with a grain of salt and check the actual news media. My understanding is that the Bush administration has appointed somebody to have the job of handling the postponement of the presidential elections, if necessary, claiming that they're worried that terrorist attacks will happen around that time and that the elections will need to be postponed.
Oh, okay.
But you know, every evil regime that decides that it doesn't want to relinquish power comes up with some excuse like that.
I figure that's probably going to be their little ploy, that the closer we get to the elections, they're going to put fear into us even more. We're going to get more than a weekly dose of fear.
Yeah.
And they're going to use that as a reason to get people to not go to the polls. They're going to bring up this preposterous idea that, you know, we have an exact threat now, and it's going to be at the election polls in November.
Somebody in the Bush administration seriously needs to read a little fairy tale called "The Boy Who Cried Wolf," because they're not going to be able to keep getting away with this for, you know, it's got to be less effective every time that they fiddle with the color of the terror meter. Yeah.
Okay, well, that was all I had to talk about.
All right. Well, thanks very much for calling.
All right, bye.
Okay, now to get rid of... I do that. Okay. All right. Should we take another?
Yeah.
Let's see. We seem to have more lined up. We'll go to Mike on 2. Mike?
Hi, guys.
Hi, Mike.
I was calling to talk about, I guess, Kerry in the Catholic Church. I find the whole thing sort of humorous.
In a way, yeah.
I hope Kerry wins because I thoroughly dislike Bush, but I hope it is still humorous in that there's nothing in the Bible that says thou shalt not commit an abortion. Nothing at all. In fact, the Bible seems to be advocate that an unborn human is not really the equivalent of a live human. In Exodus 21, there's something about if two men are fighting and a woman who is pregnant gets hurt in miscarriage, then basically the guy is fined for the miscarriage. If the woman dies, then he is killed, a life for a life. So the Bible doesn't really consider an unborn fetus the same as a live human. So abortion really should not be considered the same as murder.
But again, this gets back to the public policy question. There isn't, even if it's said in the Bible that no, you must not commit abortions, right? That's murder. Even if it said it specifically, wouldn't change a thing. Not everybody in the United States who votes is a Christian. Not everybody in the United States who votes is a Christian that takes the Bible literally, right? So there's going to be people who have just as much right to their own idea of what is the point where we need to start caring about stuff like that. And all those people deserve to be involved in the political process. And it's just as bad for the Catholic Church to step up and say, "You, Mr. Political Candidate, have to vote in accordance with our particular beliefs, and not as a representative of all the different people of the constituency that you stand for."
Right. Well, I agree with you. What I was pointing out is that this lawyer is saying that abortion is taking a life, whereas the Bible doesn't support that view.
But the Catholic Church does. So
again, the Catholic Church doesn't believe in the Bible. Then, now the Catholic Church.
What a surprise! None of them really do.
Well,
even the fundamentalists who make it their business to claim that they are the literal interpreters, they don't literally interpret it.
Now, another thing I find humorous is that the Catholic Church does believe in the Bible, and the Bible says thou shalt not commit adultery. And the Bible defines adultery as getting a divorce, basically. Unless your spouse is an adulterer yourself, you really cannot get divorced.
Yeah.
So any politician who does not advocate making divorce illegal is going against the Catholic teachings, and they should also be excommunicated or should be brought up for heresy just as well as Kerry should be.
Yeah.
And again, they don't bring that up because they realize most Americans are for divorce, even other Christians. And so again, they don't bring that up. So it just points out the hypocrisy of this whole situation.
Right. Yeah. It's all about pressuring people into doing things their way.
Right. I mean, this whole thing against Kerry is just political. It's one lawyer. It's politically driven, and hopefully it'll come out that way.
Yeah.
That's all my ranting I had.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thanks for calling.
That's just another example of how people, can interpret the Bible any way they choose, any way they want. That exact passage I've heard as evidence to support that abortion should be illegal. That's really like the only passage in the Bible that talks about an unborn child is that if you abuse a woman who is with child and the child dies or the woman miscarriages, then the man should be fined. Well, as he was saying, you could interpret that to mean, well, the man doesn't need to be killed as though the baby was murdered and he committed murder. The man just needs to be fined. That's really the first time I've heard that interpretation.
Yeah.
That's implying that baby wasn't a real human because he only needs to be fined. But I mean, most people say, well, see, it does talk about how you should be punished for killing an unborn child.
Yeah. Yeah, but, if you start laying into religion on charges of hypocrisy, right, of claiming that this book over here is their holy writ and that's all exactly the instructions from their God, I mean, you'll never stop. But they're free to do that. They are free to interpret, poetically or conveniently anything in their holy book that they want. I don't even care. I do care when a presidential candidate who's supposed to stand for, in Kerry's case, all the Democrats or anybody else that wants to vote for him, is when an organization he's part of tries to manipulate his vote. That bothers me. Let's go to Aaron on... Oops, I'm sorry. That was wrong. Jane. Jane?
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, Jane.
I am a Baptist, and I'm appalled that Bush would try to get the roles of the church.
Yeah.
And I'm appalled, and I'm a pro-choice, and I'm appalled that the Catholic Church stepped in and wants to make us all, if you kill an unborn baby, then you have 2 murders and so forth. This is so disgusting, and I thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you for calling.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, case in point, right? I mean, not even everybody in a particular religion agrees with well, let's say that's a bad example. She is in agreement with the Southern Baptist guy we were talking about before, their ethics commentator, who said that Bush trying to get the membership list from churches that's beyond the pale. I don't know where I'm going with this. Let's talk to Aaron. Aaron?
Hello?
Hi, Aaron.
What's up? So, let me get this right. Atheist is a religion.
No.
It's not?
No.
So, what do you believe in?
Well, atheism is not about what you believe in.
So,
the word atheist, a person is an atheist if they don't believe in any gods.
Atheist is the word for it, okay.
Yeah, we don't believe in any gods.
So, can you explain love to me?
Sure.
Unconditional love.
Unconditional love?
Where does that come from? If there's nothing,
I'm not aware of such a thing as unconditional love. Love is a biochemical process that goes on in our brains.
Yeah.
Right?
Everything's mind over matter, so.
What? Excuse me?
Mind over matter? Everything?
No.
Well, almost.
No. Chemicals.
So there's no truth in that saying.
No truth in what thing?
Mind over matter. Everything's mind over matter.
I'm not, if you mean what I think you mean, what people usually mean when they say mind over matter, like psychic powers and stuff, no, I don't believe in that either.
Something like that.
And most atheists don't, but I actually know that some atheists do believe in, like, psychic powers, but...
Most illnesses are mind over matter.
Huh?
Like bulimia, stuff like that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
He's talking about how psychosomatic illnesses.
There are such things as psychosomatic illnesses, but far from all illnesses are psychosomatic.
So, do you believe in UFOs by any chance?
We were having this conversation the other day, weren't we?
I think it's. I don't think there's any good evidence that we've ever been visited by extraterrestrials.
Yeah.
But if somebody said compare the odds of say angels and space aliens.
Guardian angels.
What?
Guardian angels.
Any kind of angels. If somebody asked me,
I have experience with one, so
dude,
I believe.
I'm trying to say something that will maybe help you understand.
Yeah.
Okay. If you ask me to compare the odds that angels are real versus the odds that UFOs are real,
yeah,
I'm going to side with the UFOs.
Yeah.
Right? Because UFOs are just like, the idea is they're guys that evolved on other planets that built machines that got them here.
Yeah, we're aliens.
That doesn't violate any known physical laws, whereas angels do.
Well, see, this show called Atheist Experiences, I view atheist conversations, and I don't really believe in Jesus.
Okay.
I believe I'm God's son. I don't want to call myself Jesus. I would call myself Jesus because I'm Mexican. But anyway, I don't know. I believe in reincarnation.
Okay, good for you. Who cares?
Yeah.
We don't.
Well, what do you think?
About what?
What do you think after death? You just go to sleep or what?
Well, you know, if you turn off the power to your computer, right, stops working.
Yeah.
That's what dead people do. They stop working.
Yeah, but a lot of people use that argument.
For the rest of your, like, what?
A lot of people have heard
I really shouldn't be asking you because no one knows, but I don't know.
Right. I believe, and most atheists believe, that when you die, I think the computer example is a bad example because a lot of people come back with that and say, well, but you can turn a computer back on, and that's what reincarnation is.
I'm beginning to suspect Aaron is not entirely serious.
No,
Aaron, thank you for your call.
Give it up for your host.
Pardon me?
Give it up for your host. Never mind.
Co-host.
Thanks for calling, Aaron.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, take it easy.
Yeah. Briefly, let me respond to that.
There it goes.
I mean, I've talked about this on previous shows, but I mean, most atheists believe that when you die, I mean, you cease to exist. Your body decomposes. Your brain and all the chemicals that cause you to have a mind and have a thought process and have, whatever spirit you have, just stops. It decomposes and it turns into the earth. And personally, I believe in the cycle of life. I believe there's a certain element of reincarnation in the fact that your body decomposes into the ground and fertilizes new plants, and the plants feed new animals. And
yeah, but you know what? I'm not going to agree with calling that evolution, or calling that reincarnation.
I don't call it,
because you don't get to enjoy any of the stuff that happens after.
You're not aware of it because you're dead.
Right. So, for me, big deal.
Yeah.
Let me talk about something that is some good news. Does everybody remember when, after 9/11, there was a survey that found that about half of the people in the United States agreed that the First Amendment goes too far in the rights that it guarantees? This was like all over the news, and everybody was appalled that, oh my gosh, here we are all ready to give up our rights. And then we had this thing called the Homeland Security come into place, which is exactly that, right? It's us giving up a whole bunch of freedoms in exchange for an illusion of safety. Well, the news is that support for First Amendment freedoms has returned to its pre-9/11 levels, according to a new survey. Americans deeply shaken by the terrorist attacks of September 11 continue to American support for First Amendment freedoms continues to rebound and is back at pre-9/11 levels, according to the annual State of the First Amendment survey conducted by the First Amendment Center in collaboration with the American Journalism Review magazine. The 2004 survey found that just 30% of those surveyed agreed with the statement, "The First Amendment goes too far in the rights it guarantees," with 65% disagreeing. After 9/11, it was 49% to 49%. According to Gene Policinski, acting director of the First Amendment Center, despite the ongoing war on terrorism worldwide and regular warnings from authorities about domestic attacks, a significant majority of Americans continue to support a free and open society. Still, having about 1 in 3 Americans say they have too much freedom is a disturbing figure. And that's what I was talking about before, with the whole boy who cried wolf thing. The Bush administration can only milk this fear of terrorism so far. And that's evidence that it's no longer working for them. What else have you got?
What else have I got? Well, I've got, and I would like to remind callers that on Sundays this is a live call-in show, and do please call us in with questions. Call us in to heckle us. Call us in to accuse us of being devil worshippers.
Call us in to tell us you're Jesus.
That's right. Do please call us. Jesus, if you're out there, we'd like to hear from you. We really would. Oh, hey, look, the line just lit up. That was fun.
So
I would like to remind people also that, you know, the point of our show is mostly educational based, just a little bit of awareness that there are atheists out there, that we don't believe in the devil, that we aren't immoral people, that we are, you know, relatively well educated usually, and that we, you know, care about what happens in our country in terms of separating church and state. You know, we're I don't know. We're not all demons. We're not demons. I just want to make that point clear, okay? And we're not angry and bitter people either. So I have a story in the news here. More about sex education.
Okay.
It's from the New York Times today. Experts in sex fields say conservatives interfere with health and research. It appears that you know, it's just more about sex programs are having to justify themselves to conservative people who believe that you should not be teaching how to have safe sex. You should just be teaching about abstinence before marriage in order to, you know, prevent things like disease and pregnancy. Mr. Wagner, who is the president of Advocates for Youth, was quoted saying, "For 20 years it was about health and science, and now we have a political, ideological approach," he says. "Never have we experienced a climate of intimidation and censorship as we have today." They're having to hide what they do if they talk about anything other than abstinence. And I mean, I'm seeing more and more research studies coming out proving that the people who are taught abstinence before sex, you know, abstinence before
Everybody
sex.
abstains before sex.
Abstinence before marriage just doesn't work.
Right. Well, that's some of the research that is being suppressed by this administration. I mean, they've got an ideology that says we want to promote just this abstinence thing because we can't, you know, because of our religious beliefs, we can't get past the idea that that any kind of sex outside of wedlock is a sin. Therefore, we're going to use our political power to make sure that all we ever teach people how to do is not have any.
And they're doing that, it says, by spending the National Institutes of Health. They're wanting to stop the National Institutes of Health from spending $1.5 million on studies that are wasteful and unnecessary. They're saying that if you study whether or not teaching abstinence before marriage, as opposed to teaching, you know, preventative and safe sex, is beneficial, is just a waste of tax dollars. You shouldn't be wasting your money on that kind of research.
We have some more calls.
Great, let's take calls.
Let's talk to Thomas. Thomas, you there?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to make a comment on something you said, Jeff, earlier. I thought that it was very good news to hear the report that there are people out there that understand that we need to have First Amendment rights. However, the problem is with the legislature. I don't know if you noticed last week, the House tried to pass some, they tried to take some of the teeth out of the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
And of course, it didn't pass, and a lot of it had to do with presidential veto. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to let people know that people are becoming more aware and understand that the importance of the First Amendment. And
yeah, but don't be discouraged by that, because you'd expect the government to lag behind the general public on issues like that, right? They'll catch on. Yeah. Or if they don't, we'll replace them.
I just wanted to, I wanted to make sure everyone knew where the problem was, and that it is with the legislature and the president. Thank you.
Okay, bye. Thanks for calling. And Howard. Howard, you there?
Yeah, hello?
Hi.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the Patriot Act a little bit. And,
okay.
You know what else? One thing that seems interesting to me is the way this whole thing has been playing out since when things are going well, you can talk about freedom, you can talk about free speech, and that's all fine, and really all you have to worry about is things like, President Clinton's peccadillos, or what you don't like about Hollywood, that they're too sexual and too violent, things like that. But then when it really becomes, when it really becomes important, when there's really something, life and death, then there's a certain number of people who say, no, I don't really want to hear a conflicting opinion. I don't want to hear the other side. I don't want to think in other than black and white. Yeah. And that's when the goods are really down, when the cards are on the table, that's when those people failed. And that's what I'm saying about Bush and Ashcroft. Those people have failed. Those people have failed to live up to America because the chips are down. This is when it really counts to say, I'm not going to profile people. I'm not going to single out people. I'm not going to take people to Guantanamo Bay and take away their rights. I'm going to believe that people are innocent until proven guilty. I'm going to believe in the process of justice. That's when it's really important, and they fail.
I agree.
And when it comes to religion, I have one other thing I want to say. I've called this show before, and one of my favorite things to really rile Christians up is to say that Christianity, as I've heard it described by a lot of so-called Christians, is anti-democratic. And frankly, I never heard Jesus talk about democracy. He knew nothing about democracy in any way that we have accepted, which is basically a Greek concept. And he didn't really talk about that in any comparable terms.
Yeah, I mean, are you still there? We're having trouble hearing you because of your phone, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're kind of breaking it out. You there now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always kind of troubled me that we're supposed to be we're supposed to not have any kings, and yet Christianity talks about how they follow their God as their king, and that just, to me, raises some really serious questions about how well that can work alongside the political process we have.
And not only that, the king in this case, it doesn't really exist. So you're
they think he does.
Of other people.
I'm willing to set that aside because they think he does, right? But does it make it any less treasonous to follow a king, to be an American citizen, but still say you follow a king just because he doesn't exist? To me, the issue is thinking you're following some king.
Well, yeah, I suppose you could say that, but that's one of the things about with the Protestants have always said about Catholics, that they follow the Pope. Their first allegiance is to the Pope.
The Pope does have the advantage of clearly existing.
Right. So, to me, it's all a bunch of nonsense, and it shouldn't really be a major factor. And this is, if people really believed in freedom, then abortion should remain legal. And if you don't want an abortion, then don't get it. Teach your children not to get one, and give them some good reason for it. If you don't believe in, this goes down to drug laws as well. It's a moralistic thing, and it's not really freedom. We don't have freedom in this country. As long as we locking people up, have a huge prison system that exists on this disgusting parasitic drug laws, we don't have freedom there. And those are based on religious morals as well. If you really start digging down, you find the rationalization for it. These things are wrong. That's all I want to say. And I want to say one last thing, that Christianity is elitist in the purest sense, because they think that in the afterlife you get to go to heaven and everybody else goes to hell. And if that's not undemocratic, I don't know what is. See you next time.
Thanks for your call. That's a slightly different take than I have of it. I just think it's dehumanizing. The idea that the premise is all human beings are damaged goods that deserve to go to hell in the first place. Now, I know there are sects of Christianity out there that don't agree with that specifically, but for them, my question is, well, what good is the religion then? If it's not, it's often sold as the ticket to prevent yourself from getting to hell, which is where you're going to wind up in the normal course of affairs. But if you're not going to wind up in hell as a normal course of affairs, then you don't need the religion, so what's the point? We also have Tracie on line 3. Tracie?
Hey.
Hi.
I just wanted to respond. I caught halfway through a caller earlier that was asking, I guess, about aliens and angels.
Yeah.
Like what has better odds or something.
Well, I was trying to explain something to him by using that as an illustration, but he wasn't interested.
Well, it reminded me, first of all, I watch the show not real frequently, but I've caught it a few times. And every time I've ever watched it, there's always a Christian that asks, what does an atheist believe happens to you after you die? And it almost makes me laugh, and I would almost like to turn the question around to them and say, what do you think an atheist would say to that? Because I can't imagine that they would think that there would be some elaborate response about some fantasy that occurs after you're dead and that, yeah, your spirit goes on, but it's some ungodly spiritual realm or something. It's like, I don't know what they think you're going to say.
Well,
a lot of people just genuinely do not understand. A lot of people, as far as I know, have never been aware that there is a real such thing as an atheist in the universe. They've heard about these mythological creatures called atheists that don't believe in God, but they don't understand what they do believe in. I mean, if you've been raised almost brainwashed to believe exactly one thing in your life, it's difficult to wrap your brain around another concept that's foreign to you. I mean, if you sit here and you've been trained to believe all your life that there's this God that floats around in the sky, watches over you, and when you die, you go sit by his side on a cloud and strum a harp for the rest of eternity, and you've never learned anything else, you say, well, if you don't believe in that, what do you believe in? I mean, they just genuinely can't imagine what else there is to believe in.
I guess, but that's my point, is that it's a belief that doesn't have an imagining. So it's like there is no belief or imagination. It's just about, this is what happens. A person dies. This is what I see. I don't see them coming back, and so I don't make suppositions about what's going to occur. And it reminded me of a Carl Sagan statement, especially when he was talking about the alien thing, where Carl Sagan had recorded that somebody asked him, did he believe in intelligent life in the universe besides humans? And he said, there's no evidence right now to support that. You know, there's odds, but there's not evidence. And the person responded and said, but what do you believe? And he said, I just told you what I believe.
Yeah, you know, we had that discussion on the 4th of July. They were playing the movie Independence Day, and I was saying that I think it's very presumptuous that we assume that if there were alien life out in the universe, it would automatically be far more intelligent than us. It would automatically be hostile. And, you know, Jeff's response to that was, it's presumptuous of us to assume that in this vast universe, well, we're alone in the universe. I mean, I don't think that it automatically has to be, you know, way more advanced than us, way more technologically advanced than us, way more intelligent than us, although it can be.
Right. No, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I felt that the question to him was kind of funny, and that for him to put forward that there's no evidence of this, and someone to say, but what do you believe? And he says, well, I believe there's no evidence for it, then it's almost like somebody wants you to presuppose something. And with the death thing, when somebody asks me, what do you believe happens when you die, I just say, well, there's no evidence that anything happens to you when you die.
Right.
You're just dead. And so my response to these people isn't that this isn't my belief, this is what we see. Now, as far as thinking that something happens after you die, that's a belief. That's you inserting something and saying, okay, then after you're dead, let's speculate on what happens. My response is another Sagan quote, which is that when you can't prove a thing, there's no way to prove it, it's vertically worthless. So for someone to speculate all day long, or even for 5 minutes, about what happens after you die, unless they're going to plan on putting this into a lab and trying to prove this thing for some purpose, it's just a waste of time. And I can't ever understand why, what it is with Christianity, where they're like, what do you believe happens when you die? It's like, no, I can tell you that when you die, all the evidence points to nothing happens. And if you want to believe something different, then you have to start plugging in information that isn't there.
Right.
And that's up to you if you want to do that, but it's not. It's worthless. It's worthless speculation.
Right. But, well, I work in the computer games industry, and I'll say one thing about you know, beliefs in magic and demons and fairies and stuff like that makes great entertainment. But, and this is sort of getting, responding to something you said earlier about imagination. Atheists don't lack imagination. We just know the difference between something we're imagining and something that's actually true.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
we get that charge a lot, too, that You know,
Absolutely.
you're live this dry, antiseptic, unimaginative life. Well, that's not true.
No, it's not true. And I mean, I do understand that the idea of speculating for entertainment is one thing. I had a friend that was astounded that I used to like to watch The X-Files, and she's like, "Why do you like to watch that?" Like, you know, in her mind, it was almost like you don't believe it, so why do you enjoy it? And I'm like, well, I think it's a good show. I mean, I don't have to believe that it's true in order to find it an interesting program.
Well, you know, and there, I mean, there's just so much evidence out there that they don't understand the concept of drawing that line between what's imaginary and what's real. I mean, like, for me, I love the imaginary stuff. I love fantasy. It's my favorite genre of books and movies. I love the Harry Potter movies. You know, it's like escapism. It's like if you want to watch a movie about the real world, just don't go to the movies. Just go live your life, experience life, sit at a coffee shop,
or watch documentaries.
You know, or watch documentaries, whatever. But you know, if you're gonna go to a movie, watch something that doesn't have anything to do with your everyday life. Watch a fantasy, but even the Christians can't accept that. Even they take Harry Potter and they freak out that it's possible that the people who acted and wrote and directed and starred in this movie are actually practicing witchcraft. They are actually witches and wizards and sorcerers who are dabbling in evil and writing on broomsticks.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand the difference between imaginary and real.
Yeah, which is pretty amazing. I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, just the fact that they're Christians to me shows that you're right. They don't understand the difference between imagination and reality. But just that whole thing of not understanding that it's like, you know, as the Christian, you're the one inserting the supposition. Atheists are not supposing. They're just saying, this is all that we're seeing here, and we're not going to suppose or presuppose something beyond that unless you can bring me new evidence, further evidence to show that there's more to consider here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
All right, I'll let somebody else have a chance.
All right, thank you very much for your call, Tracie.
All right.
All right, bye-bye.
I personally, I believe in a whole lot of stuff that I don't actually believe in. It's called the game of pretend.
You believe in a bunch of stuff that you don't believe in?
It's called, this is the game of let's pretend, and pretend we're not pretending.
Okay.
That would be like tarot cards. I love playing with tarot cards. Ouija boards. I love playing with Ouija boards. You know, stuff like trances and seances, all that stuff you do in summer camp when you're 8 years old. I love playing with that stuff, and while I'm playing with it, I love pretending that I believe in it. You know?
Right. But you know better.
But I know better.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't honestly, I've heard a lot of people say.
As entertainment, it's no big problem. It's like, you know, I've had people ask me these kinds of questions, and you know, it's the difference between going to see The Terminator and coming out going, wow, what a cool movie, and going to see The Terminator and coming out going, uh-oh, I better take steps to make sure I'm protected in case a robot comes from the future to try to kill me. You know, it matters whether it's true or not. Shall we go on?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with Anthony.
Hello.
Hi, Anthony.
Yes, I'm listening to you guys. My question is, how many true Christians do you guys really know?
Well, I don't know. You know, it depends what Christian you ask.
Yeah.
Because some Christians say other Christians are true, and a different Christian will say, well, no, those same Christians are not true.
This is one of my big problems.
Do you know what it means to be a Christian?
For me, anybody who says they're a Christian, that they believe in Christ and worship that particular God, that's a Christian.
No, that's not a Christian though.
Well,
see, this is what
dude,
what y'all misinterpreted what a Christian is.
Dude, when you guys figure it out, then and come up with a consistent answer for us, then we'll follow some more specific definition.
Okay.
Why should we not take people's word for it?
More to the point.
But here's the thing. First of all, y'all presuppose a lot of things. First of all, when you say a Christian, the reason why I ask you how many Christians do y'all really know is because it seems to me that y'all take the narrow view of maybe some wacky person who says they're Christian. The Bible says not everyone that say unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom. See, what y'all doing is taking some wacky person and saying they presuppose it. Now, let me ask you this: Have you ever been in an exorcism?
Sir,
have you ever been in an exorcism?
We'd like to respond to each of these points as you raise them.
Okay.
So when you finish one, just give us a chance to comment.
Have you ever been in
on your comment about presupposing that all Christians are wacky? We know that all Christians are not wacky. right?
I don't hear it on your program, though.
Well, when we're doing the news, we're talking about things that get in the news, which tends to be the more extreme stuff. I know that all Christians are not completely wacky, but we do think, because we're atheists, right? We think there's one wacky thing all Christians have in common, and that is you believe in an invisible man in the sky.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't believe in invisible. That's another misinterpretation.
Whatever, however you want to define the God that you believe in, he's not visible, and you believe in him anyway. We think that is a sort of general wackiness shared by all Christians.
So your belief is you believe in nothing.
I believe in all kinds of things, just not any invisible guys.
So then, in other words, do you believe in evil?
Do I believe in evil?
Yeah, do you believe evil exists?
Do you mean as
a
some kind of
E or a lowercase
evil?
E?
Oh, come on now, those are semantic games. You know what I mean when I say evil?
No, I can answer this question.
Okay.
If you mean evil as some kind of supernatural force, no, I don't believe in that. If you mean evil as a generic term for behavior that is antisocial and bad for us to tolerate, yeah, I believe that happens.
Now, what is the source of that? You think people are born evil?
That's human beings.
You think people are born evil?
No.
So where is the source? Or they have to get it
I think
somewhere?
the way human beings are born is imperfect, and I think human beings are born.
Before you go, you believe that they're born imperfect. Who said they was born imperfect? Who said that?
I just said that.
Okay, but where do you get your interpretation from?
Well, I can imagine what a perfect person would be like. No, but we're not that.
But you've never seen it. That's the point I'm making to you. You said that people are born imperfect. How did you know that people are born imperfect? How do you know
Because I can imagine a perfect one, and we're not that.
You can imagine?
Sure.
But you have to be getting it from somewhere.
No.
So you just believe that people are born imperfect, right?
Yeah.
And evil, and they're born evil,
I can compare people all kinds of stuff.
You believe everybody are born evil?
No.
So give me somebody who are not evil, that you consider not evil, that was born.
I don't usually categorize people as evil or not evil. I categorize acts as evil or not evil.
Right. That's my point.
When one day Adolf Hitler went into the bathroom and brushed his teeth, he wasn't doing any evil at that moment, right? So that right then, evil is not an issue. Now, when he goes and signs the papers to send a bunch of Jews to Auschwitz, that's evil.
So do you believe that and I know you got some other callers, do you believe that Adolf Hitler, do you believe that he's going to pay for his atrocity?
I believe he did pay for his atrocities. They pulled his moldering corpse out of the bunker underneath Berlin. I believe he did pay for it.
I'll say that again, I didn't hear you.
They pulled his remains out of a bunker underneath Berlin. He paid for his behavior.
Where's the payment, though?
That's it. He's dead. He died horribly in a bunker underneath his capital city.
So with all the killing that he done.
Yeah.
In other words, let's say if a person who never done that got killed in a bad car accident, so you put him on the same level with someone who got into a bad car accident and died, right?
I have no idea what you're asking.
What I'm saying is, if you say that was his punishment, then evil ultimately wins. That's no punishment.
How's that?
That's not a punishment because everybody's going to die. So that's not really a punishment if everybody's going to die.
Oh, well.
That's not punishment, though.
Well, I'm sorry. If everybody dies, then the difference between a guy who's punished and a guy who's not punished is what happens to them during their life.
The question is...
Not some mysterious... ethereal other place they go for some special punishment.
Right.
So
that's just, the whole Christian answer to punishing evil people by saying, well, they'll get it later. It makes you feel better, but what it does is it sets aside personal responsibility.
The question is, how important is punishment? Because in my opinion, and I am Jewish, the important thing was that what Hitler did to the Jews had to stop.
Right.
And when he died and when the Nazi regime fell, it stopped. The Jews were no longer being kept in concentration camps. They were no longer being killed. I could care less if Hitler's immortal soul went to heaven or hell and lived on in some happy la-la land in some invisible universe in the sky. I don't believe that. I don't care. I care that Hitler was killed, that Hitler was stopped from creating evil, from causing evil, to happen to other people, and I'm not saying evil with a capital E.
Well, evil didn't stop with Hitler, though. There's still evil.
Well, but
Sure.
his evil stopped with him.
You know,
no, evil didn't stop with Hitler.
His evil,
dude,
evil
I didn't say it did.
Okay.
So, but that's the point I'm trying to get you to see. I mean, if you say, okay, Hitler killed all these people, all these Jews,
dude,
okay.
life is a constant struggle.
Okay.
That's just the way it is,
Well,
right?
let me tell you.
We're in this universe of blind, uncaring natural laws with people who have inherited a lot of instincts from our ancient tribal ancestors. We're not very well suited for living in the high-tech culture that we're in, but we try to get along, and we got a lot of baggage, and we muddle along and do our best. But it's a constant struggle. There is no ultimate perfect answer to everything. That's ridiculous.
Your guess is Jewish. Actually, does she believe that Jesus Christ existed? She's Jewish, right? Did you say you was a Jew? Did you say she was...
Okay, first of all, I have no evidence to prove the fact that there ever was a man named Jesus Christ. Personally, I do believe there was a man named Jesus Christ. I believe that he was a Jewish philosopher.
Okay, what did he teach?
That's all there was to it.
What did he teach, though?
He taught philosophy, and he taught a philosophy that was already existing in the world for many centuries before he came around.
Now, where did you get that from, that he taught philosophy? And where did you get that from?
Stories I've heard. I don't know.
Exactly. That's my point. You don't know. See, because the thing is, when I hear y'all talk, y'all are so one-sided. Because
dude, you're one-sided too.
Wait,
Come on, that's not fair.
Let me answer this.
That's
let
not
me
fair.
respond to this.
You
Okay.
each have a side.
Wait, let me respond to this. Okay. You know what? You're right. We don't know. And in my opinion, that is a big difference between someone that believes in religion and someone that doesn't. If you don't believe in God and you don't believe in religion, when there's something you don't know the answer to, you're not afraid to say, I don't know. But when you are religion, when you are religious, when you do believe in God, if there's something you don't know the answer to, the answer is God.
No, but the thing is, just because you don't know, don't assume that everybody else don't know. It could be that the evidence is there, but you may not accept that evidence.
But
see,
sir, Christianity has had over 2,000 years to prove itself true. And it hasn't.
What do you think of all the Jewish writers? What do you think of all the
screen.
What about so everything, all of Jewish history is a fraud?
What?
All of Jewish history is a fraud?
I never said any such thing.
Well, they mentioned Jesus Christ. A lot of Jewish historians.
No.
Yeah, actually, no.
No.
Okay, well,
I am Jewish, and the Torah, the Jewish writings, the Jewish scriptures, they don't talk about Jesus Christ.
What do the Torah say about God? What do the Torah say about God? What do the Torah say about God?
It says there is one.
Oh, now you question whether or not there is one. Okay.
What? No, she just answered your question.
No, she didn't. I asked her,
you asked what the Torah said, and she said the Torah says that there is a God.
Okay, but you said there isn't.
So?
So then who's right?
Doesn't she have a right to believe what she thinks is justified? Does she have to get all of her beliefs out of some ancient, moldy old book?
She has a right to believe if she wants to, but don't get on TV saying it as if it's true. Don't try to make it like it's true.
Gee, you mean like every single religious channel where they get on TV and say what they think is true? We got as much right as anybody else, sir.
No,
haven't we?
There should be. My thing is this: it's easy to say that there's no God when you have no one oppose you. Just like trust me, there are some programs that
right now we got you opposing us, and I still got no problem saying there isn't a God.
Well, you're wrong, my friend.
Okay, thanks for calling.
Okay, thank you.
How do I make that line go away?
Just press drop.
It looks to be done. Does it one at a time, not at the same time?
Yeah, you don't have to do it at the same time.
He had to hit the buttons at the same time.
I see. You don't have to do it at the same time.
Woo! Well, that was a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
Let's have another.
Okay.
It's one and then drop.
Yes,
Oh,
thank
one
you.
and then drop.
Okay, we're going to go to line 2. Stan.
Hi.
Hi, Stan.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Hi. Great show.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you guys. You guys actually talk about the Bible more than most Christian shows do. And coming from my perspective, I'm a person who loves Jesus, and I believe in the Bible, but I believe what the Bible says, which we are facing right now, is prophesied with a big corruption of the religious that you see out there. And so what you're seeing is a picture of something that was actually prophesied to happen, a whole big corruption of people believing in a false religion. And when you study the Bible in depth and learn a little bit more about it, you can see those kind of things. And a lot of things that people tell you aren't in there, like hell being a place where you burn forever. And I know a lot of people have problems with that. And and for good reason, because who would want to believe in a God that would be so cruel as to, you know, throw half of us into a cauldron forever? And that's just not in there. And so my point is that if you maybe looked at the Bible a little more in depth, you can get by a lot of the problems that you have with it. And my problem with you guys is that you have your own thing that you don't believe in God, but yet you're creating a whole nother religion in itself.
No, it's not.
In a way.
No,
in a way.
No, it's not.
I know you argue that.
It is possible to do that. Can I make a comment? It is possible to do that. There's a group up in Dallas called the North Texas Church of Free Thought, which is an atheist church. They were a group of atheists that noticed that there were things that about the church setting, right? The way that they met, about the daycare and the adults going into a room and the singing of songs and the giving of sermons or presentations. They liked the structure, and they've adopted that for their meetings where they meet to talk about their atheism. So it's possible, but there's nothing inherently about atheism that makes it a religion.
In fact, I think it is downright oxymoron to say that atheism can be a religion, because I do believe that the definition of religion is a group of people that organize together to worship a higher power. And
yeah, but then you got the Buddhism problem. Then you got the Buddhism problem, because Buddhism is a religion and they don't really have a god.
Yeah,
so there's got to be kinds of religions that aren't theistic. So
and you guys don't get tax-exempt status, from what I understand.
No, but they
working on
they should. Those organizations those atheist organizations that want to function like churches should be getting the same tax-exempt status as any other churches.
See, it's kind of evolving into that in a way where it is almost like another choice for people.
I think what they're doing up in Dallas is an experiment. I wouldn't say it's evolving that way.
I don't think churches should get tax-exempt status. I think that's crossing the lines of separation of church and state.
Well, if anybody should get it, then they should get it too.
If churches get it, then atheists should get it too. Otherwise, it is biased and it is discriminatory. But I don't think anybody should get it.
And I think there is a rising atheist movement, and maybe that's what you're seeing, because atheists are getting more outspoken and higher profile. But that's pretty much a reaction to the rise of religious fundamentalism and its effort to turn our country into a theocracy.
Yeah,
that's self-defense.
Which is very scary, and I'm scared as everyone else should be. But in certain regards, though, your efforts are put into a belief system which
it's not a system.
It's kind of
it's not a system. We look at other people and they say there's these entities that we call gods that we worship, and we look at them and say we don't see any evidence that those entities exist, so we're not like you guys, and the word for that is atheist. That's all there is to it. There's no system.
Yeah, but you can't come from a point where you almost look down on these other people who do believe in God, and that's where it kind of seems like you do in a way. You look down at others.
Why can't we? I mean, Christians look down on us. Christians look down on everybody that's not a Christian.
But
now I know you came at us with
neither one knows for sure, right? I mean, we don't know if there's a God. You don't know. You can't prove it.
Yeah, but all that most atheists say about Christians is they think they're wrong. But what most Christians say about most atheists is that atheists deserve to be tortured forever.
Well, that's not true.
Now, I know you personally have your own special take on this whole thing, and it might be fascinating to ask you about that, but we have more callers lined up.
Well, thanks for taking my call.
All right.
Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
One of my big problems with...
That worked that time. Go ahead.
One of my big problems with religious people is if anybody disagrees with them, they say, well, the problem at its root, the reason you don't agree with me is because you don't believe in the same God I believe in. But the reason that you think you don't believe in God is because nobody's given you the correct definition of God yet.
Or you haven't read the book enough. Or you've read it and you haven't understood it right. Or you haven't opened your heart.
Using the examples
blah, 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 blah.
You're using
Never
the
a
examples
question of
people
actual
that
evidence.
think they're Christians, but they're not really Christians. I'm really a Christian. And in my opinion, if you have to constantly change the definition of what it means to be a Christian, what it means to be religious, what it means to be God, if you have to change your definition constantly because people don't believe in you. I mean, of course there's no God, because he has all these different definitions, and not any single one of them, according to any single person on the planet, is right. Because if I say that that's wrong, you're going to say, well, that's not what I meant. I meant something else. Yep. That God that I was talking about a minute ago, that God no longer exists. And this God exists. And he said, oh, wait, you still don't believe in him? Oh, well, he doesn't exist either. This other God exists.
And you see the same thing, not just between different people now not being able to agree. You follow a single religion back in time, and it's a constant series of adjustments to modify the religion to fit with the established knowledge of that time, or the established social structures of that time. So let's go on to Todd. Todd, you there?
Hi, yeah, long time watcher, first time caller. How you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing excellent. I've got a couple points on what we've been talking about today. First off, when you're saying that most Christians hate atheists, I got to disagree with you on there.
No, I'm not saying most Christians hate atheists. I think most Christians are unaware how incredibly evil and insulting it is to suggest that a whole other class of human beings deserves eternal torture.
Well, we're taught to be, forgiving and to accept, and that's the base of what Jesus Christ wanted.
Okay, I don't care. You worship a God who you believe is going to torture us forever, and you're cool with that.
Well, tell me this.
I think any human being who encounters a religion that says this entire class of people is going to be tortured forever, not because of anything necessarily that they've done, but just because they're not in the religion, right? Any decent human being ought to look at that religion and run screaming in the other direction.
You can
if
say
you don't,
that.
If you don't, then I think maybe you're not aware how hateful it is, but it's pretty freaking hateful.
Well, you can say that, but if Jesus was a Jew, why did he have a Puerto Rican name?
Okay, thank you for your call. Alrighty. Oh, he was just a goof. Let's talk to Mike. Mike, you got something serious for us?
Yeah, I hope you don't mind me calling again.
That's all right.
One guy said something about atheists looking on Christians and stuff, and I guess I tend to in a little ways, but he needs to step back and think, if he came upon an adult who fervently believed in the existence of Santa Claus, what would he think of that person? And that's basically what I think of Christians, because basically Santa Claus is Jesus, basically. Now, the other thing was a caller a while ago who was ranting about, do you guys know any Christians and Hitler? And I think he was trying to get to the point where, because of his religion, Hitler was punished with eternal damnation and in hell. But according to his religion, if Hitler, before he put that bullet for his brain, said, God, I'm sorry, I believe in Jesus Christ, and if he meant it,
then he's floating on a cloud somewhere.
Life.
Yeah.
Those millions of Jews he killed, if they didn't do that, and they are tortured. But Hitler he could be in heaven according to their, quote, justice system.
Yeah.
And to me, that is just flat out wrong. That's, I guess, just another rant for my part. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, how about Tony?
Howdy.
Hi, Tony.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. First of all, atheism doesn't imply a belief that there is not a God. It's a lack of belief that there is a God.
That is correct.
Okay, and everybody comes at the argument from the other end.
Now, but I understand people that say that come from with the assumption that atheists have made a conscious decision to reject God, or have decided that that they've got proof that there isn't a God, and so that's why they reject it. I understand people that may have those assumptions, because that's what they're told a lot, particularly by churchgoers.
Well, I came to my atheism through a fervent search for God. Couldn't find him. Wasn't there. And I'm talking what bothers me about most Christians, Jesus, did he have a job? Did he have a house? Did he have a car? Did he have, anything other than clothes on his back? Show me the Christian that ever did what Jesus said, which was, sell everything you got, give it to the poor, hit the road, don't take an extra pair of sandals or a sackcloth, and go preach my gospel.
Yeah, well, Christianity's been around 2,000 years. I'm sure they could dig up a few examples, but,
I'm talking about if you want to preach to me as a Christian, that's the position you have to be in. Otherwise, you don't even get to talk to me about Jesus.
But that's the whole hypocrisy attack on religion, and it's like, there's really no contest.
Right.
Every single sect of Christianity has its own interpretation of the Bible, and they can't agree, and a lot of them admit up front that, well, Jesus set an impossible standard that we can't really live by, and we're just trying to emulate him. It's a big cop-out to let him off the hook.
I agree with you.
So...
Well, I've got another point, too, about people believing in God in the first place. They always say, well, you can't prove that God doesn't exist. Listen to that statement. You can't disprove a negative. You have to prove a positive. The burden of proof lies on the individual that has the belief.
That is
correct. You
correct.
Want me to believe that there's a God, prove it.
At least, rationally speaking. That's
right.
How the way good decisions are made. By, the burden of proof falls on the people who are claiming that something is the case.
Well, I can't prove to you that there is not a God, but I can tell you that I've read Stephen Hawking's Brief History of Time, and if you're going to read that, you probably need a dictionary and thesaurus and a bunch of reference from mathematical books. But he's mathematically proven that the entire universe exists in a state of flux, not in a state of stasis. In other words, it's always been moving, it's moving right now, and it's always going to be moving. There is no point in time at which the universe was created. Quantum mechanics and the theory of relativity break down at the point at which the Big Bang was supposed to have occurred. We can only look so far back into the universe with our telescopes at this point.
Yeah, but Christians...
Let me make a point.
Yeah.
If there was no point in time at which the universe was created, who created it?
Right. Yeah, that's a real good point. But there's this group called the, Templeton Foundation. It's this rich guy, Mr. Templeton, who's funding a bunch of Christian scientists, mostly, not entirely, with the, on projects to analyze the differences or points of similarity between religion and science. They're basically all about trying to keep Christianity scientifically plausible. And when we're down to the level of quantum physics, these guys are way willing to take advantage of the weirdness of quantum physics to try to shoehorn their God in there somewhere.
But they're doing bad science by going into it with a purpose in the first place. They're looking to prove something in the first place rather than just looking objectively what's occurring.
You are absolutely right.
And we as human beings made up words. We didn't find these words written on a cave wall. Everything we're saying right now is something we're imposing on the way the universe works in the first place.
Yeah.
So every time we discover something new about it, we have to make up new words for it, like quarks.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right, but it's really tough trying to get through to those folks.
Well, I think it's very brave. I want to come down there one day. This isn't the first time I've called in. I'd love to come down there one day and just be on and have the people come in and call in and argue with me. I'd love that.
Well, short of that, we are from the Atheist community of Austin, which meets every week at Crescent City Beignets. That's at 1211 West 6th Street.
Cool.
11 a.m. every Sunday, except next Sunday will be our lecture series at the Austin History Center at 12:30.
Well, thank you. I'm going to clear the line and let somebody else get on here now.
All right. Thanks very much.
Have a good day.
I don't know why it takes 2 times every time. We are down to
I can tell you why it takes 2 times every time, but yeah, we're down to a minute, so...
I'll correct myself next time. Folks, thanks for listening.
Yeah, absolutely, and thanks for joining us on the show today. It was fun doing a co-host spot with Jeff D.
Ashley, as I understand, will be back next time.
And I will be on the show again next week.
Because that's your actually scheduled week. We are both among the 4 rotating co-hosts, so you'll be seeing us again alongside Ashley in the future. Thanks again for watching. Thanks to the crew. Thanks
If
to the
you have any
audience here in the
further
studio.
questions that
Thanks to our callers.
There were some callers that didn't get their questions answered. You're welcome to email TV at atheist whatever TV list. Go to the atheist-community.org and you can respond to calls about the show on our email list.
Yes, you can. Folks, bye-bye.